Now, if you've watched this show before, you know these are colors I'm not Miss Pink person. Okay, here comes a good one. Something unexpected in the shadows. I like to put unexpected things everywhere. I don't know, you ever remember being a kid and playing with the shadows on the wall and doing little birds? Welcome to Give Your Walls Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom. Well, I just thought it was about time that we focused on color, composition, a lot of different elements of painting. But today is going to be more about the energy of a figure and transferring that energy into the piece. This golfer was out there, he had hit a great drive, and he was watching the ball go, but he was just really in the moment, really watching that thing, and that thing flew. And so not only do we want to get a likeness, but we're going to do a quick study in an hour. I know that doesn't seem quick, but that's quick for a study. And really get the energy of this piece. So I'm going to start off with a hat, and it's going to be kind of a wild ride today. Okay, so how do we start with this? We're just going to mix some darks and lights and just do a sketch of this hat. So I'm going to take some yellow ochre, mix it with a bit of white, and let's see how light or dark this is. That's a good mid-tone. I'm going to darken this up a little bit. I'm going to make my mixes first. A little yellow ochre with a little bit of violet because it's opposite on the color wheel, just a tad. It's still a little too warm, so I think I'll tone it down with some white. I think I'll take some of this mix that I already have. There, that's nice. And if you check out the reference photo, there is no red in this painting, but there will be by the time we get done. There's plenty of places that we can put red that will make this thing happy. All right, I need to tone it down a little bit with a little bit of blue. There. So that's a nice shadow color for the hat. Ooh, I like that. I like it so much, I'm going to stop mixing and put it down. So the energy of your piece, it depends on your mood. Today, I'm definitely high energy, and so the work's going to show that. It'll be quick, hopefully not dirty, but it'll be quick. Okay, so just rough this in, throw in the shadow color in the hat. One of our crew people said it looked like Indiana Jones, and I thought, that's cool, because, he really did have an adventure out there that day. We're putting down the shadow side. Seemed like the lawnmower man was following us everywhere we went, and he just waited till we were about to putt to turn the thing on. Okay, so I'm going to put some more on the shadow side, and I just see, this is a great candidate for some red right here. I'm going to go straight into the red. I'm not even going to just dab a little bit here. Not even going to mix it, but I think there's some red there. That'd be great. Today's about getting loose and painting. Oops. Oops happens when you get loose, but it's fun. You never know what's going to come up. I added a little bit of violet just to add some interest here. If you see a little bit of color somewhere, it's a great idea to just go with it and play it up a little more than you think you would. All right, let's see. It's dark here. And I'm going to scribble this in to add interest. Some here too. I painted right over the band. This hat may not have a band. I'm going to get a little bit lighter, move over into this light mixture that I had here on this edge. And not, you know, the problem is with some of this stuff is that I tend to overdo. I'm going to leave that loose like that, and we'll see what happens. Can always play with it later. So I move some white down. I'm going to go ahead and take my dirty brush and throw in this band right over the top of what I already painted. See, and I started there with clean paint, and by the time I moved over to this side here, it picked up the darker color, so that's great because it's more in the shadow side over here. Isn't that great how that works out? Okay, so now I need to make a lighter tone, so I'll mix some white with a little bit of, we'll take this medium mixture, add a little bit of Cad Yellow Deep just to warm it up. Gonna need more white than that. Let's see. I'm just going to grab the whole pile here, or at least half of it. And I'm going to make it lighter than you'd think you'd need it to be. And we can always throw color over the top. I added a little bit of lemon yellow just because it's kind of like adding salsa. I wanted a little more seasoning, a little more punch to it. Okay, this time I'm going to get a stiffer brush and just base in the lighter colors. So let's see, what is it doing? It's light right here. And it's really light right here where it meets. You know, I use a lot of medium when I paint, and I came to the studio today and totally forgot the liquid. And I would never have been able to get through the show without it. So it's really an integral part of how I paint. There are people that don't use any medium at all, but that's my process. You can go either way. Okay, so I'm adding a little light here. And I think I'm going to paint the whole thing light and then just add the punches, because it's a quick way to get it done. And that adds to the extra energy. One way to pick up your skills is to do some studies. Some small studies, maybe 5x7, 4x6, little tiny paintings. Do them in an hour, and then don't touch them. Just do them and set a little egg timer so that it's going click, 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 click. You've got that added pressure. That'll add the energy, and it'll help you paint faster and be more expressive. I think when I first started, I blended away all the really cool things that would happen. This way, I just leave it. It helps me know when to stop, most of the time. Okay, I like that. I'm going to add light just around the edge here. Now I need to start picking up some other color. So I'm going to grab my palette knife and take some straight color down so I don't taint these little piles up here. But I want some straight Cad Yellow Deep, maybe a little more red, and pull that down so that I have access to it. Still with the dirty brush though. And I'm going to mix that right with what I've got down there. And as the paint runs out, it will get lighter. And I turn my brush around too. I'm just scrubbing it in so that it has a nice little transition. This whole thing's a little darker. I'm not painting as much of the hat as is shown in the reference photo. I cropped it a little differently, but you get the idea. Sometimes I just change my mind right at the very end about what I want in the picture and what I don't. Okay, I'm going to add a little light here. And there needs to be some separation there, so I'm going to take that violet, a little bit of violet there, and just bring it right on up. So you're already starting to get some interesting things happen to the hat in a very quick, short time. And I'm not fussing with it. So today's lesson is putting it down and leaving it, moving on to the next thing. And especially when you're tempted to just play and futz and fiddle, don't. Just keep going, because some interesting things will happen. If you don't like it, you can always go back and and play with it later. But it's a good idea to give yourself a break, a chance to look at it before you go do that. Okay, that's enough for there. Scribble that in, scribble this in, and then I'm going to get back and look at it. It's starting to make some sense. Now, there are things that the reference photo or the photo doesn't show you as far as what was actually happening that day. So it would actually add a little more interest if the brim had a little, and I'll blend this in, just a little touch of color there in places. Don't outline it, because then it looks like you outlined it and it looks funny. And then I'm just lightly feathering the edges so that it doesn't look like I did what I just did. And I'm going to connect this stuff here. Make this so it's not a hard edge. I'm mixing in different places. And then I'll throw in a little more fun color, because color is fun. Let's see, what am I doing? I'm adding warm colors to this side here because it's light. If I were to add anything to this shadow, I think I would add some more cool tones. But I'm going to add a little bit of this cad yellow deep because I'm just in that place. And I'm going to tighten up my lines a little bit here. If I do any more than that, I would be futzing. So this is a great first statement. Gives you an idea of how to get the hat in. And then, if we had a lot of time and hours, we'd go back and play with it a little bit more. But I want to get that energy of that day. It was just great because he's watching the ball. He hit the ball, and it's hanging and hanging. It was probably the best stride he had the whole day. Okay, so what else is going on? We got a little bit of his hair. Oh, and how cool, there is red at the ear. I see some red hair. I know, there's just like this tiny little spot. But that's enough for me to feel good about painting this painting. Because there's an awful lot of green and neutrals here, and that's, whew. Holy moly. Okay, so look at this red. Oh, that's just great. And I'll darken it a little bit because it's in the shadow. I'll even mute it down a little bit. So we don't want, there's this one painting by Sargent, and her ear is just, you look at the painting and you just think, oh my God, it's gorgeous. And you're in awe of the beauty of the piece, and then you really look at it and the ear is just bright red, but it doesn't, when you just look at it, it doesn't look out of place. And I've talked about this before, the capillaries are closer to the surface in the ears, and that's why, and men's ears are redder than women's. I guess their capillaries are really up there. I'm going to start getting calls on this too. Okay, so now let's get his hair in. I'm going to add just a little bit of red and purple and make some brown hair. So how are you making purple out of red? And so I'm adding a little ochre. I want this to be sympathetic with his hat. So I add a little ochre to the dioxazine purple. Now I'm going to add a little cad red light. That's a little too red, even for me. And a little bit of green. There. That's a nice brown. Now this is a guy that never, ever wanted to be on TV. And, he's just really shy. You'd never get him on TV. So I told him today he was going to be on TV. He started cringing, but then he realized what I was doing. Okay, so I'm just going to rough this in. It might be a little too dark, but I'll adjust it later if it is. Wow, I don't know what's on my brush, but it needs to go. I think it is a little too dark, so I'm going to grab a little ochre and put that over the top. Being careful that it's not the same color as the hat. That's about all I need to do there. I'm just going to have to put in the rest of his neck. And let's see, his haircut kind of goes like that. All right, so now let's make a little flesh color. Need to wipe my knife. I'm adding Cad Yellow Deep with white, which is great for the highlight of a flesh color, but I need to tone that down a little bit, so I'm going to add, believe it or not, to tone this down, I'm going to add red. See, I knew there'd be red in this painting, but really it does. It's going to make it more of a peach color, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of green. I was trying to decide whether I use sap green or the turquoise. I'm going to add just a touch of turquoise. Now, see how much I have on my knife? I mean, there's just a touch, just a dot. And that would really take over. So I'm actually going to push most of that aside and only add a little bit. Well, maybe a little more than that. Maybe a little. Okay, that's good. That grays it down enough so that it's not a screamer. That's nice. So very warm painting. Or even that it's not red, it's very warm. Okay, so we'll put in the, that could probably be even a little darker. I think I'm going to take that and just mix it on my brush. Brought up some blue. I think he's going to have a blue neck. Okay. Oh, I might have been okay. Imagine that. Just going to blend it in with his ear. And these are just shapes. They're just really abstract shapes. This is more of a triangle over here, and that's another triangle over on the other side. And that's how I'm looking at this stuff. Okay, so he's got a little bit of neck showing right here. I'm going to soften the edges. Okay, so even from the back, you can start to get a likeness of a figure without putting in a lot of detail. I have not, you're getting the idea that it's a hat and a man with just a, in just a short amount of time. I want to do the same thing with the body. So let's start with a shirt. Now, if you look at the reference photo on this, you'll notice that in the shadows, there's so much blue. Here with the white little speckled from the hat. Well, I decided, and how you would do that is you would paint the shadow side in, and then you would wait till it dries and put, it's probably the easiest, and then put the little speckles on top. I'm just going to pretend like the hat didn't have holes, and if the hat doesn't have any basket weaver holes here, then it would not have that same little thing happening here, and so it just makes it a lot easier to paint in a short amount of time. All right, so he's got a blue, a gray shirt, and I'm going to make it a little more blue than it really was in real life because I like the color better. So how do you gray something like that down? I'm going to take some ultramarine blue, and let's see, what do I want to do to start graying that down? I'm going to grab this mixture over here. I'm going for a reddish tone to help, imagine that, to gray it down. And that's just a little too much. So I'm going to add white to that. And instead of straight white, I'm going to take this nice light mixture. Ooh, that's pretty. I've been painting a lot of blue lately. Paintings go with the seasons. Okay, that's nice. That's really nice. I think if I add a little bit of that green that takes over, this is a phthalo turquoise, it's a technical name for it. It does take over. See what it did? All right, that's too much. So I'm going to have to gray that down again. And how would I do that? Well, I can add a little red because that's opposite on the color wheel. And I also need to warm it up, so I'm going to grab a little bit of the soaker. That ought to do it. Oh, that's a nice shadow color. It's a lot more neutral. Okay. Do I like that? Yeah. Is it the same color as the reference photo? No. That's, the reference photo is just what I said. It's just reference. All right, so I have this favorite brush that I use for almost everything. I'm just going to wipe this off. And you know what, I'm not going to wipe it off too much because the extra color in there will add interest. And I'm going to put the darks in first. Gives me a road map of where to go. All right, so it's dark around the collar. And what's the shape of that? It kind of goes out a little bit this way. And a little bit out that way. It's off-centered a little because he's standing funny. Well, he's not standing funny, he's just not standing straight. He's definitely got, you know, some solidness to the stance. All right, so it's light here and dark here, so I'm painting in all the darks first. Again, we're going to do something really fast and throw stuff on top. Now my brush had some of this ochre from there, and it's great because it adds some nice interest. It's not just boring. And it's harmonious, it ties into what we've painted already. I love these neutrals. Good thing, huh? Okay, so that's dark there. Where else is there shadow? And I'm literally just going to throw in the rough shapes. And if it gets to be too blue, I'll grab a little more of this extra stuff in here. Extra mixtures that I already have. It's going to be harmonious with everything I've done. I'm just kind of scribbling here, but it really will work out. Love that extra ochre in there. The temptation is just to grab a lot more, but then you'd have too much of the same thing. You know, a little bit is good, and you know, as an accent. Sometimes I push things too far. Okay, what's his shirt doing over here? I'm following the weave, following the folds. Folds are a direct result of what's happening, of the figure, of what the fabric is resting on. So they're going to act a certain way. They're consistent with, if they're laying a certain way, that they're always going to do that kind of thing. So here he's got tension over on this right side of his body and then over here. So that's pulling out the folds. So you think about what's underneath there, and not just, you know, you don't just look at the fabric. Think about what's underneath, and it'll help you have better form. Good thing we weren't talking about I'm always getting myself into trouble. But at least I was painting the shirt and not another area. Come on, you guys. I got to turn around because I'm a little red here. Okay. You know, I don't mean to go there. I don't mean to go there when I start, but it just happens. My poor husband. I think he's used to it after all these years. Maybe, maybe not. That's who I'm painting, you know. I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah, this has got some good energy going. Let's see, his shirt comes over his belt. He's a very tight guy, so but he's, you know, it's entitled. He's playing golf. I think the most pressure we had was we were putting, and there was I wasn't playing with him that day, but I was putting, and there was a skunk within vicinity as I was putting, and I was doing really good, and I wanted to finish the hole, but I was so worried about the skunk. It was hard. All right. So you can see I'm just roughly scribbling this in. It's not a careful plotting thing, and it's going to have more energy that way. there were times when I first started painting that I would try so hard to be perfect that I would really cover up a lot of the character of the piece. So I like to start out with this kind of fresh energy, and if I need to refine it later, I can. Now, I also like to give it a rest because I can tend to overdo. All right, that's dark there. Where else is it? I'm just looking for darks and lights, just a simple, almost a value study. All right, what else? We've got more dark hair. Just going to need a lot of this because, whoops, it was all in shadow. And I think before I miss some of this light that I just covered up, I'm going to go ahead and mix that, and that way I can do my whole double brush thing when that comes up. Okay, so I'm taking the blue that we had, this nice mixture here. I added a bunch of white to it, and I took it right in this mud that I made over here. So we've got a nice light that's, ooh, that's gorgeous. Nice light, but it's still a really cool neutral. Okay, that was a bad choice of words. Really interesting neutral. It's pretty warm in temperature. I didn't have enough, so I added some white. Sometimes you have to warm it up again after you do that, sometimes you don't. And I'm going to drag that right through what I just covered up. So I'm going to get a clean brush. Nah, I can use this dirty one because it's got the light color in there. Okay, so lots of liquid. And I'm actually going to start down here. There, that's better. And have that go all the way up to the top. And while I've got this brush out, I might as well throw some in right at the top of his shoulder. That's nice. Might need to be a little bit lighter up here, but that's all right. You know, it's interesting. I could put a background in here, or I could just do that. It's got that not that I paint as well as Norman Rockwell, but it has that look where you've got the figure against a stark white background. And sometimes that's just fun to do. Okay, where else is there light? Right in the middle there. And this is light, right where it comes over, this little fold here. I'm going to continue with this light as long as I can. And I'll have to switch back to the dark, but I'll stay on this left side. Oh, well, you know, I didn't mean to do that, but that was cool. Nice little extra stroke there. He's got some serious shoulders, so I want to try and emphasize that. The strength in there. And I'm gonna work my way down. So I'll start with the lighter part here. And add some really light in here because the shoulders, the blades come out. Okay, I'm laughing about that movement because, you know, most people when they fly in their dreams, you know, they're kind of going like this. I'm more like a helicopter. I can kind of hover. Just thought you needed to know that. But anyway, and this is kind of like Rosanna Dana. How that all comes together is I was thinking about when your shoulders are doing that, we've got that motion. it's going to be, in a painting, it's going to be lighter right here in this area, and that will help the whole thing have form. And form is something that I really like to do in a painting. Other people don't mind, they like flatter type pieces, but I like three-dimensional items. Okay, this comes over a little more here, and I'm basically going over the lights and saying, where can I add some more? Ooh, there's a little tiny dark spot that I don't want to lose, so I'm just going to grab my other brush, put it in, like a little triangle right here. There, that's enough. Oh, I like that. That was fun. See, it should be fun. It doesn't always come out like you want, but it's kind of like the Rolling Stones song. You know, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. And eventually, you know, at first I had just parts of a painting that would work, and then, you know, you work your way up, and eventually whole paintings actually come together. Okay, so I'm kind of blending this in here. All right, that's got a little darker spot there. I'm going to leave alone for now. Switching back to this brush here. And just scribbling, because I am in that kind of a really loose mood here today. Back and forth. Okay, so this is lighter. This is lighter. That comes up like that. There's a little bit of light here. All right, so I'm going to grab some of this warm, maybe a little bit of, really warm that up. And I think it needs some more white, or it's not going to work. That's nice. That will work. As long as I use the right brush to put in there. Okay, so that's not light. It's not bright enough. So I'm going to get a little bit of orange. That's going to tie in with that. Oh, that's a nice complement to this blue-gray. Told you there'd be some reds and warm color in here. Go into the straight white. And that's light, and this goes down here. I want to get these lighter areas in the middle painted before I get to the edges and I start blending, merging the color with different brushes. I want to keep the brush clean as long as I can. We're not going to paint, or I'm not going to paint every little fold in here. You're just going to get the idea of how you can get a likeness down quickly. That goes down here. There's a little bit of light that goes right down here. And pretty quick, I'm going to start blending some color with what's already there. So I'll take my gray brush and move this up here. Kind of merge those two. Add a little bit here. You know, I need to add a little bit of, just for some accents. A little bit of this, oh, that might be too much, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's fun. A little bit of accents in the shadows. Yeah, it's too much. I had to try. You know what? That's the thing. Experiment. Throw in a little color. It feels like this would be good to do. Go ahead and try it. There, that violet tones it down. That's better. For as much energy as I have today, I'm not painting a screamer. This is more of a mellow piece. The strength is in the stance, the posture, and there is strength in neutrals. Blending these two together. All right, so I need to put the darker blue in there. So I added some violet, a little bit more of the phthalo turquoise. I'm going to put that right here. That's too bright. I'm going to tone it. See, this is another instance where I'm toning it down with red. And why that works is because it's opposite on the color wheel here. It will gray it down, and it won't be a screamer. That's the same color. I need a little more. There. A little bit here on this edge. This little shape is like a triangle. And where else is it kind of dark? Right here. We'll throw this right over the top. We'll fold right in there. A little right in there. And there's some dark right here. I'm not being precise where we want to move on to other areas. Let's see. I'm just looking for what would help with, really make a punch. All right, now I'm going to take this lighter brush and move it down into these areas here, and we'll have a third little color here. And kind of merge them with this shadow side. How low does that go? I guess it could go lower. I probably shouldn't have wrecked that brush yet, but that's okay. You can always get another one. Besides, having the other few brushes in your hands adds balance. There's light here. So these are just really abstract shapes, and you're getting the sense of light. A little bit of light right in here. Okay, now I'm getting to the point where I'd start futzing, and I need to move on to other areas because we really only do have a half hour. But you can see by these rough abstract shapes, you're really getting the quality of light. And when I make that happen, that just, I love it. It's just one of my favorite things because you're really not painting the object, you're painting how the light hits it. It's the light that makes everything do whatever it's doing. All right, so I'm tempted to just clean this up real quick. Just this area here. I'm knocking down the hard edges. And that way, if I let it dry and go work on it again, I can do something with it. All right, I could play with this more, but we need to keep moving. So I'm going to raise the easel so that I can reach the bottom part of the painting. It makes it a lot easier to work on. Okay, so let's do his belt. Let's brown sort of color. I see one area that I'd like to clean up just real quick. I'd just like to blend that a little, just soften that up. There, not so harsh. And then this is not so harsh. Okay, I'm going to start fiddling, so I'm going to quit and go back to the belt. All right, so how do we make a brown? Because you notice I usually don't have earth tones on my palette. I'm going back to, the quickest way for me is to get a little bit of red. You always start with the red. Cad red light, a little bit of blue, and you got to throw some green in there to brown it, make it nice brown. And I want a deep mahogany, so I'm going to take a cooler green, only a little bit because this is the one that takes over. Let's see if this is, then I hold it to my canvas and say, okay, is this going to work? Does this look good with this? Yes, it matches his clothes, so it will work. All right, so we've got belt loops here. Just quick strokes. Right here, a little bit. right there. I should have had his shirt go down a little bit, so I'll change that. And there's like a little bit of belt showing here. You know what, if you don't get exactly the same shapes that are in the picture, it's really okay. Nobody knows what the reference photo looked like. All right, so now I'm going to paint his pants. Now the dilemma I had with his outfit, not while he was wearing it, I thought he looked great. But as a painting, I tend to like to have the lower section of the painting to be a darker color, because that helps add balance, because if you have things that are dark at the top, it's top heavy. So I'm going to make his trousers a little darker than they would be in the picture. And I'm going to be quiet before I get in trouble again. Really. The reason I'm laughing is I can hear my my husband saying, "Likely story." Okay, so what did I just do? I just started mixing all these colors. I took the phthalo turquoise, and I added a little yellow ochre. That's tying it in with what's already there. And so I'm warming his pants up a bit, but they're still going to be, it's going to be warmer than this, but it's still going to be darker, so that'll work. Okay, I'm going to add a little white to that. And let's see how this compares to his shirt. Oh, I like that. Maybe if I throw some red in there. Actually, I'll throw a little bit of white and a little bit of red. Maybe a lot of white. White, red, and ochre. Okay, it's still mixing until I stop. You don't know what's going to happen. I don't always know what's going to happen. I have an idea of where it's going to go. Okay. Let's hold it up next to. See, I hold it up next to what I've already got to see if it's going to work. I like that. It's very sympathetic, so that's going to go. Only I didn't make enough. This is where my students usually freak out and they say, "I didn't make enough paint. I got to mix it again." I say, "Yep, you do." But it's okay. If you made it once, you can make it again. And I'm running out of white, so I'm going to squeeze some white out there. And when I first start out, I'm really careful about how I put all the paint out and everything. But when you're toward the end of the painting and you're just into the session, you just throw a little bit out there and start playing. All right, so we've got, this will make it a lot lighter by throwing all this white here. And that's okay, we'll just keep adding the colors back to it. This is actually a nice color trouser, let's see. No, it's too close to what we had. All right, more ochre, more red, a little orange. Let's see what we come up with. I'm moving that because that's bugging me. Try to minimize things that bug you while you're painting. Okay. Nope, you know what? I still want some more ochre. Took me longer to get there than I thought I would. That happens. Sometimes the mixing is half your painting time. All right, we'll put the ochre in there and it'll take off. Where it's going, I don't know, but it'll take off. Oh, there we go. See, it needed to just be warmer. And maybe a little darker. I'll throw a little more red in there. Maybe that wasn't the right red. Okay, it had to be a warmer red. There we go. Looks awfully red now, but it's going to be happy when it's done. Yep, there we go. Each of these colors that we've mixed, they all tie into each other. That makes for a harmonious painting. And, you know, my first teachers used to talk about the mother color of a painting, and that always cracked me up. But really, it's the one that ties everything together, and here it would have to be the phthalo turquoise. All right, so let's get some pants on this guy. All right, so I'm going to throw in some belt buckle loops, just throw them down. And in order to have form, he's going to have a little bit of light right over there. This part of the buttocks is a little lighter. This part over here, and the edges will be darker, and that'll help the whole thing have form. And then, of course, down lower, it's on this side, it's definitely lighter. So I'm putting this down quickly. We really want to get this in, because I want to show you how to get the arms in too before we end the show. So I'm going to base the whole thing, add the darks, and then throw some light over the top. And while I'm there, his shirt didn't go down far enough, and I hope I have enough left on my paint to do that, on my brush. And if I don't, we're introducing another color. There, now it just looks like he's got a little shadow under there. So you just make your world the way you want it. Okay, so we need some dark in his pockets. So I'm going to just throw some of that same blue in there. And let's throw some light in. Just going to grab, I think I need some more white again. Throw that over there. Okay. I lost my paint. All right, I got to keep some of this clean. Toward the end of a painting session, that's a challenge for me because I just get totally into what I'm doing. All right, I lifted it up so that I can reach and so that it actually goes off the canvas. And that way I'll be able to get these areas down here. And this is light right in here. And I added some gold and some little bit of cad yellow light to that to get that quality of light hitting his leg. And let's see, we'll add a little more white to that, grate down a little bit. And where else is it? It needs to be a little lighter right in here, right in there. And just kind of scribble some of that here. And then he's got pockets too on the side. Got to have pockets when you're golfing. God, I learned that. You know, a lot of women's clothes don't have pockets. So I wore some pants that weren't traditional golf clothes, and you got to have places to put all your tees and balls and everything. Okay, so I've got that down. Now we'll go finish these pants. It seems like there's a lot of different color going on here, but there is. Whoops. That was a little too much on the blue, so I'm going to just paint over it. I'm filling in these lower areas so I can put the canvas back on the easel correctly so that I don't knock it off right in the middle of the show. There's not a lot of value difference in his trousers, so we're going to leave those relatively simple. Get them based in and move on to the arms. Let's see, this light goes pretty much all the way up to his pocket. So at this point, you can see I have all these brushes in my hand. That way I'm ready for whatever color I encounter as I run into it. And I'd like to say I might be a little more methodical if I weren't trying to get something done in a short amount of time, but it's pretty much how I paint. All right, so let's get more of this taupe color in. Finish the pants. Wonderful neutrals going on here. And I'm just scribbling so that all these various spots of colors meet. And I think I'm just going to paint over right where the pockets were and put them in after. Just mix all the color in. And sometimes it is easier to just fill in everything and then put stuff over the top. So we've lost the form, but we'll get it back. Just scribbling. Okay. Stand back, see what form is left and what's necessary. So I'm taking a look at it. And you're starting to get a sense of that. Let's see. If I punch in some darks and some lights, I think we can do it. Realize that this is a little faster than I'd probably paint. Maybe not. Maybe not. All right, so I'm just going to punch it up with a few darks, and we're going to get those arms done. All right, so we have this dark taupe, and I'm just going to add some of this little darker mix here and make sure that there's a little definition there. A little definition on this side here. And what else? His pants are kind of going off to the side there. It's just very fluid. A little bit there. Put the pockets back in. I could play with this some more, but I'm not going to because it's got to have arms. All right, so I'll put the pockets back in and we'll move on. It's just kind of off to the side there. You don't see the whole thing. There. It's rough. It's not as detailed as the shirt, but you're starting to get an idea of what they do. And I still think this is just way too much, so I'm just going to knock it out and we'll knock it off. We'll play with it later. Okay, so that's enough for now. It gives you a sense of form, even in its rough state. All right, so arms. How do we quickly get arms in here? Well, there's always red. Grab a little bit of the cad red light. And that's going to be a nice dark. Yeah. Okay, so we'll throw some cad red light here. And he's going to have red arms. I'm taking a dirty brush because that'll help with the neutral. And he's basically got a shadow side. Ooh, I like that. Oh, but he's got to have like a little bright red right here. There. And on his other, with some orange. Right there where his elbows hit, he has some orange. Cool. All right, so we'll finish the dark side. need a little brush that has a little more control, so I'll move over to this one. And see how quickly we can give this guy some arms. He needs to have soul. Somehow I don't think we're ever going to get to the golf club, but you know it's there. All right, we'll add some light, basically some cad red light, cad yellow deep. Oh, that's nice. And just throw this color in over here. Let's see, he's got a little bit of flesh under his watch. Throw that in. And I'm just scribbling, and I'm stopping. Okay, so then I'm going to throw the same little bit, only it'll be blended more on this side. As you can tell, I'm all over this canvas. A little dark around the edges. Give it some form. A little light in the middle. It's nice when you have these mixes already done. Helps things take shape right away. Okay, that's the quickest arms you could ever see. Throw in a little bit of dark for the gloves. What does that shape do? Basically like this. It's got to have a little watch here. That's the watch. Got to put in a golf club. And if you want this grip to have real quick form, paint the whole thing one color, add a little light right down the middle, and blend it. A little bit of gray hair for this club. And what can we do for the glove? The glove's got light on the outer edge. Oops, can't have the flesh tone there, that's confusing. Oh, that was way too dark. I sound like Goldilocks. We can do this. See, that's the thing, it doesn't always happen on the first try. All right, so we've got a little light here, a little light coming down there. And the rest is a little gray. So I'm just going to throw in this gray shape. Throw a little light down there in the middle. And yeah, it's a rough, it's really for as wild as the shapes are, and for as quickly as we did it, you really do get a likeness. And so I want to encourage you to just throw the paint down. Don't be afraid to just put every ounce of energy you have in it, and you'll create some really cool things. Thanks so much for watching Shannon Grissom. I hope you give your walls some soul and go out there and golf. See you next time.